I've been in ad tech for a little over 20 years, and it sort of reminds me of the very beginning when things were sort of the wild, wild west, right? I mean, it was early days of ad serving. Cookies were a brand new concept, at least to the public anyway. And so we built an industry around third-party cookies because they were easy, and ended up being very lucrative for us. Over the years, there's been a lot of different concerns. There's been, a lot more transparency around privacy, things like that. There's been a lot of emerging technologies, new ways of processing data, new ways of buying media. Programmatic came out, and that changed everything dramatically. And now I would say that we're in sort of this maturing phase of our industry where not only are we a little bit more mature in our technology and our methodology and our sort of ecosystem, but consumers are also a lot more mature, and they're a lot more informed now. So I think what's happening now with the third party deprecation, what's happening with sort of all of the different privacy regulation that's coming along, is that we have an opportunity to sort of rebuild our ecosystem, probably in the way that we should have in the beginning if we really knew what we knew now and we had the technology that was available to us then, right? And so where I think this is going is people-based marketing. I mean, that's really ultimately what is going to drive this industry forward. Advertisers and marketers want to reach their customers. Their customers are people, they're not cookies. And so all of the platform players that are building solutions around people and around being able to recognize and reach people in the open web, I think are going to excel over the next few years.
So you mentioned it. How will the cookieless future and technology like blockchain help position independent open web players against the walled gardens?
Yeah, it's interesting. Blockchain is still an emerging technology, and it's something that we're watching closely, but not necessarily adopting right away. There's a lot of skepticism, I think, around it in terms of its viability short term, specifically around sort of waste in CPU and energy and sort of the amount of uh, uh, resources that is required to run things on blockchain. So we're watching it closely in terms of looking at it for security solutions and things like that. But we're waiting for it to be a more scalable, a sustainable solution, at least environmentally. It's an opportunity for more people-based marketing, right? And so when we think about um, how how marketing should work. Again, it's marketing to people specifically. So we want to create more opportunities for marketers to reach those people and not just in one small space, one small corner of the internet. So like a Facebook or something like that, where it is that walled garden. So people who are working across the open web but doing it on a people-based identity, I think are going to have a lot more opportunity to go head to head with those walled garden solutions because we can give a lot of the similar insights to actual customers that advertisers want to reach.
Okay, what about consumers? How are they going to be affected by these changes? Will they get more control of the ads that are served to them and the products that they're recommended to them?
I would hope so. I still think that there is some education that needs to happen for consumers to really understand what the value exchange is for giving up access to some parts of their data. I think that there's a lot of press out there that makes it a little bit scary for the average consumer to understand how really large companies are using their data. So I think it's up to us as an industry to help consumers, A, get more comfortable with what's actually happening, and then B, really help them to understand what they're getting in return for offering up their data. So, for example, if I sign into a website, I get to experience the content that they're providing, right? And so, not everything is free, right? There's no such thing as a free lunch. And so it's you got to give to get. And if you're giving an email address, that doesn't feel so scary. I mean, social security numbers, things like that, maybe a little more scary, obviously. But I think it's really up to us as an industry to help educate consumers around exactly what they're getting for what they're giving and try to have them understand that value exchange a lot better. Once that happens, I think that they can start to really understand when they want to opt in versus when they don't opt in, right? Because a lot of times what's happening is a consumer will opt out of everything, and then the result is a really poor experience out online, right? They're getting ads that they don't care about. They're seeing a bunch of things that they don't understand or are not interested in. And so having them help understand that opting into some of these programs and some of these solutions is actually beneficial to them, I think is the key.
Lastly, blockchain introduces a new way to conduct media buying transactions. How does this affect pricing across the ad ecosystem? Does it change incentives in the way media plans are created?
Again, we view blockchain as an emerging technology, and we're not really investing a ton in our tech stack today. We're certainly watching it closely, but again, the big question that I have is, in advertising and ad tech specifically, we're dealing in trillions of transactions daily, right? And so if I think about that with regard to how blockchain has to work and how all of the different callbacks have to happen across the different ecosystems, and there's different networks of blockchain that have to work together, it feels like a sledgehammer for of a solution when maybe just the hammer that you got at Home Depot is probably still sufficient. So I'm trying to really wrap my mind around, how blockchain is actually improving the situation. And is the trade-off really worth it? Is the impact to our environment worth it? Is the amount of processing power that it takes to run it actually worth the cost, right? I mean, there's a lot I think that is going to come out over the next couple of years where I do think that there is a place for blockchain. I just haven't quite figured out exactly where that is today.